Good morning, everyone out there in Wealth Hustle Land. This is Tyrone Keys coming at you with a follow-up video to the video we did entitled, There Are No Shortcuts to Wealth Building. In that video, we talked about some ways to start researching stocks, how to invest, how to get started in a low-cost fashion. And we also touched on different platforms you could use to research those stocks. And I promised you in that video that we were going to come back and talk specifically about how to read the Wall Street Journal. I don't make any money from the Wall Street Journal. This is not a paid advertisement for them. I'm getting nothing in return. However, I have been a long-term subscriber to the Wall Street Journal, and I find it to be one of the most vital aspects of my research into not just stocks, but also other paper assets like bonds. They talk about the insurance industry. There's a great story in there today about long-term care insurance. And they cover the other asset classes as well. Commodities, private businesses. There's a private business story in here today about a company that gets people to sign a waiver before they eat their spicy food, because we live in a litigious society. And I actually know of an incident where someone went to an Indian restaurant. Indian restaurants are known to be spicy, and they freaked out because a flaming tray of spicy food was served. So I guess the guy got scared, and he no longer offers the dish because he doesn't want to get sued. But anyway, I digress. It also goes over, the Wall Street Journal also covers real estate. So it covers everything, including our all-important fifth asset class, you. It has a life and art section, and you need that. The physical, mental, emotional health side is the most important asset that you can own. Without it, you've got nothing. So let's get started here. All right, in the news business, they have what's called above the fold. Okay, when the paper's folded like this, it's on the newsstand. Everything above the fold is what the editors consider to be very important news. So we got Goldman's trading falters. Why is that important? Well, for one thing, if Goldman Sachs is seeing decreases in trading, it could be a leading indicator for the overall economy. Maybe we're going to see a slowdown in trading as the year goes on, and maybe that will affect the overall stock market. It certainly has ramifications for the other banks. If you're an investor in banks or an investor in Goldman or thinking about investing in banks, this is a story you need to read. Apple set to pay big tax bill, touts U.S. spending. So that's they're going to be spending big money in America, and if you are maybe a supplier somewhere in the supply chain of a tech company or cell phones, maybe that has some legs for you, or if you invest in those companies. The editors also have this section over here to the left, what's news. So they have carved out some stories that they think, for various industries, that they think will be important for you to know about. So you can see some there. Sherry Redstone, she's the head of Viacom. She's talking about doing some things with CBS maybe. Talking about Bitcoin, Rolls-Royce. They've got they're going to sell its marine engine business. Verizon's doing some streaming things with the NBA. Okay, so we've got all that. In addition to that, we've got below the fold. These are also important stories. They're on the front page, but they're deemed of lesser importance than what's above the fold. Here's the story I was telling you about. Want our spicy pizza? Sign here. Diners seek hotter dishes but can't handle the heat. We open up the paper, and this is the A section. And in addition to U.S. news, we've got world news. You've got to know what's going on in the broader world. We're a global economy now, and so you have to understand how markets are being shaped elsewhere. We only get a narrow slice of what's going on here in the United States. We can't just afford to pay attention to what happens here. We got to look around and see what's happening in other countries, especially the developing world, because that is where a lot of money is going to flow and a lot of fortunes are going to be made over the next 2 and 3 decades. Air quality improves in Beijing. Saudis pledge $2 billion to stabilize the Yemen economy. Secretary of State Tillerson, U.S. to shift focus in Syria and Iran. Why is that important? Well, if they're going to be doing some things more of a diplomacy nature, maybe that will affect the defense stocks. If we're going to have more of a carrot approach as opposed to a stick, maybe the defense stocks have maybe that has some ramifications on the defense stocks. Egypt, Ethiopia wrangle over the Nile Dam. Okay, now I'm sure that story has a lot to do with power generation in Egypt and Ethiopia. Again, these are developing nations. They're going to be big players as we move throughout the 21st century. Need to know about them. Here we have some news out of some of the other countries, Romania, Canada, and the Eurozone. Then we have back in the back here the life and art section. Again, this is human interest types of stories, things that may not have a direct correlation to business, but then again, they may. Why your bags can stay stuck for days. Now, if you're a business traveler, that is definitely of interest to you. And they go over some entertainment news. Weight Watchers wants you for life. That's interesting. I'm going to read that because I thought once you lost the weight, you start practicing good habits, you don't need Weight Watchers anymore. But we'll read the story and find out what they're talking about. And then in the back here, you do have a small sports section. They cover sports mainly from the standpoint of the sports as a business. And you have the opinion pages. Now, this is important. Opinion is just that. Anyone can have one. It can be informed or not. It's still their opinion, and it's valid as their opinion and their opinion only. However, news is objective fact, okay, with no opinion. I know a lot of the news agencies are getting that twisted today. That is why I do not watch any news other than financial news, because I can make up my own mind, and I'm sure you can too. More opinion. Now, let me say at this juncture that we're going to also briefly cover the electronic version of the paper. The Wall Street Journal, when you subscribe to it, they give you an electronic version as well as the print version because it's the 21st century. And of course, you've got to have an electronic version that you can access on your smartphone, your tablet, your computer. So they provide that. But it's much easier to navigate, much simpler, more intuitive because everybody's into the internet. So that's why I'm going over the print version first. Now, business and finance. This is an important section because when you open up the Wall Street Journal, if you're pressed for time and it's the weekday and you just want to find out what's important to you, you can open up the B section, go to page B2, and there's an index to businesses. So let's say you are invested in, I don't know, let's say you're invested in Baker Hughes. All right, Baker Hughes is mentioned on page B2. Let's say you got some shares of BMW. BMW is mentioned on page B12. We saw Viacom, the chairman of Viacom. We talked about her earlier. Viacom is mentioned on page B1. So if you have a company that you are interested in investing in and you want to do research, or you have an investment in the company, which you should be always looking out for news for companies you're invested in, come to the index to businesses on section B in section B2, and you can find it. They also have an index to people. So we can look through, and there's Mark Zuckerberg. He's the head of Facebook. He's mentioned on page B1. Sherry Redstone, again, there she is, B1. She's the head of Viacom. They're talking about her on B1. So if you, again, I cannot stress this enough, if you have shares in a business or an interest in a company, and that company, you should be looking at this index every day to find out if they're there so that you can read the latest news about them. Same with people. Okay? So it continues to go through business news, has a section on technology. Sometimes that section is bigger than it is some other times. And of course, because it is a financial newspaper, you also have the market digest. So you have the credit and currency markets for you Forex people out there. We'll talk about Forex. Equities, those are the major stock indices. Okay, so there's the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ. They also have the commodities, so copper, gold, palladium, silver, all of them, platinum, and their performance for the previous day. You've got borrowing benchmarks, bonds, and corporate debt. Very important if you're going to be investing in a company to learn about their debt. That's all important. And that's covered on that video series from Preston Fish that we posted on the Facebook page. And then you got the biggest 1,000 stocks. So you go through and you can look up various stocks. Let's take one, Duke Energy. Let's see, where's Duke Energy? Let's take Johnson & Johnson. Here they are. Right, this camera is kind of screwy here. Okay, here's Johnson & Johnson. Right there, J&J. That's their stock symbol. They've abbreviated the name of the company, I guess, because Johnson & Johnson to take up too much space. But that's their ticker symbol, J&J. They closed the day yesterday at $146.98 per share. And that was up 12 cents. Now, if a stock is down for the day, you'll see the negative. So here was Netflix. They're at $217.50 a share. They were down $4.03 on yesterday. Okay. So that is the print version of the paper. Very simple. You should be reading the paper every day. If you don't get a chance to read the print version, that's fine. You've got the electronic version. Of course, they've got the indices. They change in real time up here on the top. Okay. You've got several sections. The home section, world, U.S. I'm going to show you something about this in a minute. Politics, economy, business, tech, markets, opinion. Again, not fact. But some opinions are very important because some people can look at the markets and businesses in such a way that's very interesting that will give you plenty of insight. So don't dismiss this section. Life and arts, real estate, and the magazine, which is kind of an artsy type thing. One key point I want to point out here is this, U.S. edition. You can switch editions, so you can see what's going on in Asia, Europe, or India. India's a huge market, and they're growing. They got 1 billion people in India, and they need all kinds of services and goods, and they're going to keep needing them. Now, I don't know if you just saw this, but what popped up? Breaking news. U.S. intelligence has been tracking at least 6 Chinese ships covertly helping North Korea evade sanctions. Uh-oh. So that might be market moving. But you see how that just popped up? And you can go on there, and of course, it will take you directly to the story. So that's the advantage, as you know, of the electronic version. All right, so as I said, you can switch versions. You can switch around the world. It's very important to find out what's going on in other parts of the world. You can go to today's paper, which is like a microfiche version for all of those people that are my age and older and know what the heck microfiche is. Basically, what this is just giving you a view of the paper the way it looks in the print version. Okay, and you can scroll through if that's your preference. If you like to do it that way, that's fine. If you don't, then that's fine too. You can just come back to the way they've organized it in the regular version, regular online version. So the last thing I want to show you here is the search box. Remember we went over the indexes of people and businesses. Well, it's very simply, you hit that search box, You type in, let's type in J&J. That's Johnson & Johnson's ticker symbol. And what it does is it brings up Johnson & Johnson's performance of their stock so far today. And it says no articles or videos have been found. So they haven't done any news on Johnson & Johnson today, it looks like. Let's try this. Okay, so Johnson & Johnson, let's view all results. All right, so we do have some stories. Popular mid-century modern homes. I'm not sure how Johnson & Johnson factors into that. Unless it's like Die Hard. Remember the two FBI agents, Johnson & Johnson? No relation. Maybe they're talking about people and not the company. In any event, there's nothing in here about Johnson & Johnson today. So this is the Wall Street Journal. It's a great source of information, and it will help you do research into your stocks that you own, that you're thinking about owning, and it'll also give you some insight onto other asset classes, including real estate. Okay, so here we have the real estate section. Everything you need to know. They cover mainly commercial real estate, but they do get into some residential as well. All right, so that's it. Subscribe to the Wealth Hustle YouTube channel right here. Become a soldier in the war on poverty. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. We need to have people out there spreading the word about this platform, because we want to create financial legacies and we want to help you do the same thing. And we can do this together if we concentrate on learning how money works so that we can make it work for you, so you can make it work for you, and making our successive generations, giving them the benefit of doing what's right with our money. Okay? So if you have any questions, hit us up. Until then, hustle on.